This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. We begin with the very latest on COVID-19 cases here in the territory. Our USVI News, Ali Bourne-Vanek, brings us an update from St. Thomas.
The COVID rate and Delta surge continues to fluctuate in the territory, but this week begins with the numbers slightly up. According to the Department of Health, currently there are 269 active cases of COVID-19 in the USVI, 152 on St. Thomas, 101 on St. Croix, and 16 on St. John. Government House and Health also shared that more people have died from COVID since the Delta variant than before the variant.
The vaccine has been available to the general public since March 1st. All of our deaths have been among unvaccinated individuals. Deaths in the most recent months have been preventable. Remember that the vaccine prevents against all variants, the one you have gotten infected with and the one you can potentially be reinfected with. Regardless of having COVID in the past, you are still encouraged to be vaccinated immediately after recovery or 3 months after monoclonal antibody treatment. Thank you, Governor Bryan.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt. And I think it's so important for our community to note that we've now had more deaths since the issuance of the vaccine than before it. And we always say, if, these are unnecessary, we need to go ahead and get the vaccine. I can't say that enough. COVID is ravaging our community in so many different ways, and certainly we know out health-wise, but economically as well. While many people in the territory are doing well, we have a lot of people that are still not really doing well. And we can tell by the high incidence of unemployment that we're giving out, the people that are applying for social programs like welfare and food stamp, the continuation of PEBT, all the things that are going through, it tells us that our community is still struggling.
The governor also shared that public school students will be back to in-person learning on September 7th. We'll have more details on safety protocols and future plans later this week. In St. Thomas, Ali Bourne-Vanek, USVI News.
And nationwide, COVID cases continue to rise as well. Healthcare workers are stretched to their limits, especially in the southern states of the mainland, which are seeing the highest numbers right now. Reporter Lila Luciano has the latest.
The pandemic rages across the U.S. tonight. More than 1,000 people are dying from COVID every day. The U.S. is now averaging 156,000 new daily cases. COVID-infected patients have pushed hospitalizations up 624% in 2 months.
The perfect way that people have described this as a war zone.
In Portland, Oregon, 300 National Guardsmen stepped in to help medical staff combat the rush of patients. The South is battling the worst of the Delta surge, with ICU beds rapidly running out. Florida has the nation's highest case and hospitalization rates. Not far behind, Alabama and Louisiana, with some of the lowest rates of vaccination.
What we're seeing in the South is very concerning. An epidemic that coursed its way through the adult population is now coursing its way through children.
Nationwide, 180,000 children tested positive during the week of August 12th. Sparking fears of outbreaks shutting down more schools.
I'm scared that it's going to affect my education because it's really important to me.
But opposition to masks and vaccines continues as health officials double down on their pleas to the unvaccinated.
We really got the overwhelming majority of those 80 million people vaccinated. You would see a dramatic turnaround in the dynamics of the outbreak.
Dr. Fauci added that the Biden administration is sticking to its plan to start offering booster shots starting on September 20th.
Now to the latest in Afghanistan. U.S. forces are stepping up their efforts to get the last of the evacuees out of Afghanistan safely. This as ISIS terrorists try to inflict as much bloodshed, damage, and misery as possible before America's longest war comes to an end.
In the treacherous final hours on the ground in Afghanistan, the window appeared closed for evacuating Afghan civilians as the focus shifted to getting U.S. troops and critical equipment out, all under the looming threat of more terror strikes.
The threat stream is still real, it's still active, and in many cases it's still specific, and we're taking it very seriously, and we will right up until the end.
The U.S. military says its anti-missile systems thwarted an attack aimed at the Kabul airport overnight. ISIS militants believed to have launched at least 5 rockets. There are no reported casualties. That after the U.S. military says its own drone strike hit an ISIS car bomb heading to the airport. Military leaders say they're investigating reports civilians may have been killed in the explosion.
Make no mistake, no military on the face of the earth works harder to avoid civilian casualties than the United States military.
It comes after last week's horrific ISIS suicide bombing at an airport gate killed roughly 200 Afghans and 13 U.S. service members. President Biden paying his respects to the fallen at Dover Air Force Base over the weekend as 13 families grieve a devastating loss.
It's going to be hard to go on without him, but we know that he died doing exactly what he wanted to do. He went out his way.
A dangerous mission winding down and an end in sight for America's longest war.
U.S. Coast Guard crews have been delivering hope to Haiti, airlifting injured to hospitals. Haitian families desperate for help have been walking on broken limbs to reach medical attention. This in the wake of a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. It's been nearly 2 weeks since the quake hit Haiti's southwestern peninsula, killing at least 2,200 people. More than 12,000 were injured. The U.S. Coast Guard has stepped up to reach those isolated and injured in the southern part of the country. One chopper crew is from a U.S. Coast Guard station based in the Bahamas. At the airport in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, a Miami-based doctor sees about 40 patients a day. They've been airlifted to the capital city on stretchers for triage.
Prayer for everybody is that God's peace is with them, that they have His hope, that they allow His grace and mercy to accompany them.
Their families are carrying them, or they're finding ways to make it to the bigger areas so that they can meet a chopper and come in, yes.
Such devastation. Private relief supplies and shipments from the U.S. government, as well as relief efforts from right here in the VI, were all sent to southwestern Haiti. The need, of course, made worse by the rain from Tropical Storm Grace. Here in the Virgin Islands, we were spared from any effects from Hurricane Ida, but that is certainly not the case in Louisiana, where search and rescue efforts are underway after Ida roared ashore Sunday as a powerful Category 4 storm. Destruction is widespread, and more than 1 million people are still without power. Here's the very latest from New Orleans.
A massive search and rescue operation is underway a day after Hurricane Ida slammed into the coast of Louisiana.
I think the damage is catastrophic. It's the worst that I've seen in the 20 years that I've been in the parish, and we've seen several hurricanes.
The deadly Category 4 storm packing 150-mile-per-hour sustained winds and dangerous storm surge.
It was pretty scary. It was pretty scary.
Across the strike zone, the damage is massive. Residents describing the chaos as trees crashed into homes.
And I really didn't have any time to react. And, it just the ceiling came crashing down.
Those in low-lying areas retreating to upper floors and attics to escape the rising water.
Then it just progressively got worse till it was ankles, knees, almost chest level. So we just put the dogs on the counters and then we climbed into the attic.
Making a bad situation worse. Ida's destructive wind and rain hovered over the state.
Not only was this a Category 4 storm, but it stayed a Category 4 storm for hours over southern parts of Louisiana.
In New Orleans, a sudden rush of water stranding people in their vehicles overnight as rescuers rushed in.
Man, it was hectic. They had people crying, you had people fainting out there. Some people just haven't seen nothing like that before.
Dangerous and destructive. Ida's impact being felt across the region.
The entire city of New Orleans is without power, as is half the state of Louisiana. It is unclear when power will be restored for the hardest hit areas. It could be 3 weeks or more.